A wave of violence has swept across China, leaving its citizens reeling in shock and disbelief. In Zhuhai, a man rammed his car into a crowd, leaving a trail of bodies and shattered lives. In Wuxi, a former student went on a stabbing rampage, his anger exploding onto innocent bystanders. These are not isolated incidents, but rather symptoms of a deeper malaise, a simmering discontent threatening to boil over. These acts of violence, shocking in their brutality and randomness, have pierced the veil of order and control that the Chinese government meticulously maintains. They expose a raw nerve, a collective anxiety gnawing at the edges of society. Fear and uncertainty grip the nation as people grapple with the unsettling question, why? The official response has been swift and predictable: censorship, a crackdown on rumors, and a surge in security presence. Yet beneath the surface calm enforced by the state, a palpable tension lingers. The recent events have revealed a society on edge, struggling to reconcile its rapid economic progress with the growing pains of social inequality and stifled dissent. To understand the current unrest, one must revisit the ghost of protests past, the White Paper movement. In the face of draconian COVID-19 lockdowns, Chinese citizens found their voice, albeit a silent one. They held up blank sheets of paper, a potent symbol of censorship and a powerful indictment of the government's handling of the pandemic. The movement, though quickly quelled, exposed a deep well of frustration and resentment. The government's zero-COVID policy, while lauded for its initial effectiveness, exacted a heavy toll on the Chinese people. Lockdowns, mass testing, and constant surveillance became the norm, disrupting livelihoods, separating families, and fueling a sense of powerlessness. The echoes of those blank sheets reverberate today. The government's response to the White Paper movement, marked by a swift crackdown and tightened information control, did little to address the underlying grievances. Instead, it sowed the seeds of fear and mistrust, further alienating a populace already grappling with a shrinking space for dissent. The recent violence, in many ways, is a manifestation of those unresolved tensions, a stark reminder that silenced voices do not equate to quelled anger. Beyond the political lies another powerful catalyst for unrest: economic despair. China's economic miracle, once a source of national pride, has lost its luster for many. The glittering skyscrapers and booming tech sector mask a widening chasm of inequality, leaving millions struggling to stay afloat. Wage stagnation, particularly among young adults, stands in stark contrast to the opulent lifestyles of the elite. Unemployment, especially among recent graduates, fuels a sense of hopelessness and disillusionment. The dream of upward mobility, once a cornerstone of the Chinese social contract, now feels increasingly out of reach for many. Adding to their woes is the skyrocketing cost of living. Housing, especially in major cities, has become prohibitively expensive, forcing families to make agonizing choices between basic necessities and a roof over their heads. The pressure cooker of economic anxieties, coupled with a lack of social safety nets, has created a fertile ground for resentment and anger, pushing some to the brink of desperation. The Chinese government, facing a crisis of confidence, has responded to the recent unrest with its familiar playbook: control and suppression. Censorship has gone into overdrive, scrubbing any mention of the incidents from the internet and social media. Security forces have been deployed en masse, their presence a constant reminder of the state's power. The authorities have also moved swiftly to control the narrative, labeling the perpetrators as mentally unstable individuals acting alone. State-run media outlets have downplayed the incidents, focusing instead on messages of unity and stability. The message is clear: any attempt to challenge the government's authority will be met with swift and decisive action. While these measures may restore a semblance of order in the short term, they do little to address the root causes of unrest. In fact, by doubling down on repression and silencing dissent, the government risks further alienating its citizens and exacerbating the very problems it seeks to contain. The iron fist, while effective at crushing dissent, cannot extinguish the flames of discontent forever. The recent events in China underscore the inherent dangers of suppressing dissent. When citizens are denied legitimate channels to voice their grievances and participate in the political process, their frustrations fester and metastasize. What begins as peaceful protest, like the white paper movement, can morph into something far more volatile and unpredictable. The Chinese government, long wary of any challenge to its authority, has constructed a sophisticated apparatus of censorship and surveillance. Social media platforms are heavily monitored, independent news outlets are stifled, and any form of organized opposition is swiftly crushed. This creates a chilling effect on free speech, discouraging citizens from expressing even mild criticism, let alone engaging in meaningful debate. However, the desire for freedom of expression is not easily extinguished. Despite the risks, Chinese citizens continue to find creative ways to make their voices heard, whether through online forums, coded language, or acts of subtle defiance. The government's efforts to maintain control through repression are ultimately unsustainable. A society that silences its citizens is a society sitting on a powder keg, one spark away from explosion. To avert further unrest, the Chinese government must confront a difficult truth. Censorship and repression are not solutions, but rather bandages on a festering wound. Addressing the root causes of discontent requires a fundamental shift in approach, one that prioritizes dialogue, transparency, and meaningful reform. Economic inequality, a key driver of unrest, must be tackled head-on. This requires a multi-pronged strategy that includes raising the minimum wage, strengthening social safety nets, expanding access to affordable housing, and creating more equitable educational opportunities. Investing in human capital, not just infrastructure, is crucial for long-term stability. Equally important is creating space for dissent. This means loosening restrictions on freedom of speech, allowing for greater press freedom, and fostering an environment where citizens feel safe expressing their views without fear of reprisal. Embracing dissent, rather than suppressing it, can serve as a valuable pressure valve, allowing the government to identify and address problems before they escalate into crises. The path forward for China is fraught with uncertainty. The government faces a delicate balancing act, maintaining its grip on power while addressing the legitimate grievances of its people. The choices it makes in the coming months and years will have profound implications for the future of the nation. The recent wave of violence serves as a stark warning. Ignoring the underlying social and economic tensions, or worse, responding with even greater repression, will only exacerbate the situation, pushing China further down a dangerous path. True stability and prosperity can only be achieved by addressing the root causes of discontent and creating a more just and equitable society. The world watches with bated breath. Will China's leaders heed the warning signs and embrace a more open and inclusive path? Or will they cling to control at all costs, risking further unrest and jeopardizing the very foundations of their power? The answer to this question will determine not only China's destiny, but also the shape of the 21st century.